Joining me this week is an author, a nationally syndicated radio host, a columnist, and the creator of Prager University right here on the YouTube. Dennis Prager, welcome to the Rubin Report.
Dave, great to be with you.
So somehow we've only met once, although I feel that we're in the same space and that I know you sort of just through your public self. But the one time we met, we were on Larry King's show on my old home,
right.
Aura.
Yes.
And, you know, they bring you on as the conservative and they brought me on as the liberal. And I think it was a little bit around my kind of waking up to what was happening with the left. And we kind of agreed on a lot. Not on everything, but we agreed on a lot. Do you find that odd that sometimes you can agree with a liberal because you are a conservative?
I can agree with a liberal. I can't agree with a leftist. I make the distinction between liberal and left constantly because it needs to be made. The left is an enemy of liberalism, and I love liberalism. I'm called a conservative, but the irony is I don't know pretty much of any value that I changed since I was a liberal. Remember, I was born in New York. That's A.
Yeah.
B, a Jew.
Yeah.
C, Columbia. So
that's a lot of liberal stuff, right?
Exactly.
There. That's a lot of democratic stuff.
That's right.
At least back
yes,
then.
Exactly. So that was a given to me. You were all those three things. It's like I always say on my birth certificate, it had, you know, on the days when you still had gender, gender, male, you know, political affiliation, liberal or Democrat.
Right.
So it was just a given. But I haven't changed my values. The left has taken over the word liberal, and so therefore I consider those values inimical to everything liberalism stood for.
So one of the things that I've been saying is that lately defending my liberal values is becoming a conservative position. Now I suspect that's what
I'm saying.
What you felt. When did that change for you? So was there a time?
It changed for me. Yeah. There were two seminal issues.
Yeah.
I knew I was not on the left when during the Vietnam War, which I was in college, and I knew communism was evil, and my life is devoted to fighting evil. That's what I care about more than anything. I hate people who hurt people deliberately. I hate them. I want them destroyed. I want evil destroyed. I have not wavered in that passion since high school. That's all I mean, I care about a million things, but that's my greatest care. I want to destroy evil. Nazism, communism, Islamism, you name it. And the left didn't. The left hated Nazis, but they didn't hate communists. So it meant they didn't hate evil. And that's my first realization that I wasn't on the left. So, but I still thought I was a liberal, but not on the left. Mm-hmm. And then Ronald Reagan came, and in one sentence, it all turned for me. And then I became a Republican. And that was, government is not the solution, it's the problem. And that was an epiphany. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that's right. There are truths that are so real that if you have an open mind, it doesn't take more than 5 seconds to realize it.
Does that necessarily make you a Republican, or does that really just make you a classical liberal? And I know I always say on this show, I have to use a lot of these terms that I think are starting to lose meaning, but we need them just to sort of frame some of this stuff.
I'm a big fan of labels. That's fine.
But so what made you then say, okay, well, now I'm a Republican? Because that you could use that Reagan quote and say, well, I'm a classical liberal. It's liberty and individualism and limited government.
Yes, but the home for classical liberalism is the Republican Party, to the extent that they're not big government people, which George W. Bush was, for example. Mm-hmm. But the only home between Democrats and Republicans for limited government people is the Republican Party.
Yeah. Do you sense that changing now? Obviously, we're going to have to talk a little bit about Trump here. I think at first maybe you weren't supporting him, and then you kind of begrudgingly were, and then I think basically you supported him. Is that
yes? No. I actually I'm proud to say, although time will tell whether I will be proud to say.
Yeah.
But I was thoroughly consistent. I was opposed to him the most among all the Republicans. And I wrote piece after piece in National Review, Town Hall, and other places where my column appears. I was as anti-Trump as anyone, but I wrote from my first column, if he wins the nomination, I will vote for him. And my thinking was clear, and in retrospect was clear. I kept giving this analogy. If you have two doors, over one door it says man-eating lion, and over the other it says maybe a man-eating lion, I will open the maybe a man-eating lion door.
Right.
I don't see it as a big dilemma.
So this really was more of a reflection of your feelings on Hillary than anything else. Is
No,
that fair to say?
it's
No.
no, it's my reflection
wasn't
of my
that
feelings on the left. Defeating the left is as great a moral urgency as defeating Islamism. Those are the two enemies of Western civilization as we know it. And I say that with sadness. There are a lot of nice people on the left. There are probably not that many nice Islamists, I'll grant that.
Yeah.
But
the Islamists wouldn't be too thrilled about this.
they would not. Well,
Two Brooklyn-born Jews.
yes.
Come on.
Well, the left wouldn't be too thrilled about this either.
We're going to get into a little bit of that.
Yeah, but I mean it sincerely. Look at what they're doing to the university. The university is now becoming a fascistic place, literally, with the quasi-violent suppression of dissenting voices. And the reason, it is the only place the left runs without opposition. So when the left is free to do what it wants, just look at your local university and you see what's happening.
Okay, so then what's happening there? What do you think is in the mind, and I was around these people a lot for a long time, and I don't know that I have the right answer to this. What is happening where they have created this system of what now I'm calling the oppression Olympics, where your victimhood is the highest virtue that you can have, and we have to place everybody's victimhood below yours because that means you're better than them, and all that stuff. What happened there? Where did this come from?
Well, for one, there are many. It's very hard. Analyzing the left has been as complex to me as the search for string theory is among physicists. Because it's so emotional that there isn't a logical consistency. One answer to your question is the left does not divide the world between good and bad. I do, but the left doesn't. The left divides it between rich and poor, and strong and weak. Or victim and victimizer. Mm-hmm. So you don't get your strength from being right. You get your strength from being a victim, from being the underdog. That's the reason the left is pro-Palestinian. Anyone with a moral compass that works some of the time knows that there is no comparison between Israel and the Palestinians, morally speaking. But the left roots for the Palestinians because they don't measure by good and bad. They measure by weak and strong, black and white, West and non-West, first world and third world, but not good and evil. Mm-hmm. So that's a big factor that's taking place on the campus.
How do you define good and evil before you go?
The same way you do. I mean, it's not a trick issue. Good is treating people decently, is having openness to opposing views without suppressing them. Is not building concentration camps. I mean, this is not
it's not rocket
science. Exactly.
Yeah. So last time I saw you was at your Prager University event, and you gave the keynote speech. Was it the keynote speech?
Yeah.
And it was right before the election, and I sensed that you actually do want to build some bridges with these people, which is probably partially why we're sitting down. That you weren't. I didn't think you were really. It's clear you don't like what's happening with the modern left, but I do sense that you're trying to figure out a way to reach out to some of these people, which is what you're doing with PragerU. Are you seeing any real traction in waking some of these people up?
I know we're waking some people up because there is not one of the 150 Prager University videos, which are all 5 minutes and some really fine thinkers give them. Not one of them yells at you. Here is our position, here is the reason, and here are the facts behind it, and have a wonderful day. So
isn't it funny that became not the norm? I mean, people say to me all the time,
Dave,
I love your show because you talk to people.
That's right. Well, I get that. Do you know that's funny you should say that. I've been broadcasting 33 years. And the most common, among the most common, maybe it is the most, or it's among the most common reactions I get. God, you know what I really love about your show is you're calm. You never yell. In fact, I do yell about 4 times a year, where something will get me so angry, maybe 6 times a year. And I always apologize for yelling, because readers, listeners tell me, we love it when you yell because it's so rare.
Yeah.
And they realize, you can prick me and I'll bleed. But I just can't stand yelling.
Yeah, well, to me, it's sort of like a well-placed fuck. I don't say it that often, even just saying it now. I probably haven't said it on air in quite some time. But that,
and I brought it out of you.
You see the way you've enraged me here?
Yeah.
That so you feel like you have made some traction because you're hearing from people that are saying, wow, there's some discussion
The
here.
problem is, and it is a problem, what is the word? When you're not taught, you are indoctrinated.
Yeah.
The indoctrination of American kids begins so early. You're taught now in 3rd grade. You are taught in many of the states about carbon emissions. They don't show them a Bjorn Lomborg video saying that we're wasting trillions of dollars to lower the temperature by a fraction of a degree. Mm-hmm. They don't show them, because they don't believe there are other sides. There are truth tellers and deniers. There are truth tellers and anti-science. By the way, one of the things, because I studied leftism, that was I studied communist affairs, Marx, leftism, and one of the things that they have always excelled at is one-word dismissals of their ideological enemies. So Stalin called Trotsky, the father of Bolshevism, he called him a fascist. Mm-hmm. So Trotsky was a fascist. There was no need to debate Trotsky. You call him a fascist and then have him killed with an ice pick. That's in a nutshell what the left does. 6 Herb. Sexist, intolerant, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, racist, bigoted. There is no need to think on the left because you have a one-word dismissal of your opponents.
Yeah. So far, I know that 90% of my audience listening to this is going to go, all right, this Prager guy, for conservative, this makes sense. I mean, you're hitting the keys that I hit here all the time. So what about on something like science? Because you just mentioned science. This seems to me where the Republicans and the right, it just doesn't add up. We're still debating evolution. We're debating climate science. I'm not a scientist. I've brought climate scientists in here who have said in unison, basically, they agree. By the way, I've had Alex Epstein on, his book's right there, Moral Case for Fossil Fuels, and I was happy to talk to him as well, and he takes it from a different angle. And I'm happy to have those conversations, and I don't pretend to know everything, so there you go. But science, to me, is one of the things where the right has just gone
science
bonkers.
is one of those things where the left has effectively demonized the right. The position, I've never met somebody on the right who said the science is wrong. It's not science.
Well, evolution, for example.
Okay, well, all right, so you want evolution? Fine. Yeah. So evolution is a very complex issue, believe it or not. Now, by the way, I don't have a particular axe to grind. I happen to believe in God, and my position for most of my life was, okay, God created evolution. I have no issue. So
you can concurrently believe in those two things.
Yes, but it's not my position any longer because I simply know more science. And the science on evolution is not nearly as established as people think it is. Because the paleontologists themselves are not so certain that it occurred in anywhere near the way they believe it did. Two quick things on that. Sure. One is, of course, it just needs to be stated that evolution has zero explanation. I mean zero, none, for the creation of life. There was no evolutionary jump between inorganic and organic. And they acknowledge that. They just say one day they'll find one, but there isn't one. So the evolutionist has nothing to say about the origin of life. They have something to say about the origin of species,
okay.
Once life begins, but that's a big difference. The second part is they don't have a lot to say even on the origin of species. When you look at, there was this thing called the Cambrian, my wife knows, she's going crazy because she's in the other room. She's the real maven on this. But we
don't do an IFB
the Cambrian
here, so there's nothing I can do.
Explosion, that's it, explosion.
Okay. Yeah.
This was when vast numbers of species arose, but much too quickly for evolution to have accounted for them. And there are so many qualified scientists who have taken this on. Even the famous Harvard paleontologist who's passed away, whose name eludes me for the moment, but he wrote about this. He was an atheist or an agnostic, you know, but he said he had punctuated evolution, which is almost an oxymoron, because it's you know, where just things are burst
Evolution's
in
a
one
long
day.
game.
Yeah. Anyway, my only point is that it's not as clear as they make. Now, if somebody says to you, I don't believe that the world was created in billions of years, that the world it was created in 6 24-hour periods called days, that is a rejection of the science on the matter. That's right.
Okay, so I'm glad you're making that distinction, because neither one of us are evolutionary biologists, so we can say as much as we know on that. By the way, just for the record, just today I had an interview with Jerry Coyne, who's a world-renowned evolutionary biologist, who would, I'm sure, take issue with some of the things you're saying here.
Right.
But we don't have to bicker over those little things. But you're talking, when someone looks at the literal 6-day thing and all that.
But here, I just want to say, forgive me. I really
let's get it.
I don't give a hoot if somebody believes God created the world in 60 24-hour periods. I care if they reject vaccines, if they don't give blood transfusions. In other words, I don't care what people believe. I care how people behave. There's a very important principle in my life. So if you happen to believe that God created the world, which I don't, because the science negates it. But if you believe, and I believe that the Bible is divine and all that good stuff, but nevertheless, if you do believe that, it is possible to be a professor of medicine and believe God created the world in 6 days. I know that sounds oxymoronic, but it isn't. Religious belief is religious belief, and scientific belief is scientific belief for many people. I like to reconcile them, but some just say, I'm not reconciling them. This is what it says, I take it, and now I would like to go back to my medical lab, please, to do research on cancer.
Right. So in some way, though, is that reconciliation sort of splitting the difference of what you truly believe?
Me, Dennis?
Yeah.
No,
that in a certain way.
I believe in science and religion. I don't think that there's a conflict at all. Truth is truth. God, there's a Hebrew saying, the signature of God is truth. If something is true, I must believe it because it's true. I am religiously obligated to believe it if it's true.
Right. So if a doctor, let's say you had to have heart surgery or something, and you had 2 doctors to choose from, and they had the same exact medical background.
Right.
One of them said, I believe in evolution and science and all that stuff. And the other guy said, well, the Earth was created in 6 days, and God.
Right. I would flip a coin.
So that would have no meaning to you, because you really can compartmentalize.
Absolutely. No, because they can compartmentalize, not because I can.
Right. I guess you're not compartmentalizing.
They can. Because I know, you see, here's the interesting thing. There are a lot of Orthodox Jews. I'm a religious Jew, but not Orthodox.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of, so I have, this is not, I have no axe to grind. There are a lot of Orthodox Jews who are doctors, who are physicists, who are chemists, biologists. How is that possible? They believe the Torah is from God, and they then go to the lab and do wonderful scientific work. So obviously they live with both.
Yeah. So what does that say about humans in general? That we're just able to live with conflicting...
Well, all right, I have an interesting theory on that. This is why the left scares me more than, the left is scared by religious Christians, for example. I'm not scared by religious Christians at all. And I emphasize,
I got your PragerU card. I mean, it said Merry Christmas. I freaked out, and I sent a letter to the FBI. But
no, I know that. No, we were interviewed.
Yeah.
They told us you sent them. The fear that they have is not comparable. And here is a theory. So here's my theory. The human being clearly needs to believe some non-rational things. I believe that is part of what the human mind must have. So the religious person the healthy, and I'm talking about healthy religious and healthy non-religious, apples and apples. The healthy religious person confines his non-rational thought to religiosity. The secular person, when they have the non-rational, they're much scarier, because that is not about splitting of seas or Jesus walking on water. It's about real life. The amount of the non-rational that is believed on the left, that is scary.
So
Whereas
basically,
the non-rational in religious realm is not necessarily scary. It could be. You believe you murder people, you get 72 virgins, that's scary.
yeah, but there's a lot of people that believe that.
You're right. That's why I used Christians.
Yeah.
America was founded by fundamentalist Christians who produced an incredibly rational society. The competitive marketplace, the free market, liberty, these were very rational ideas. They were very religious. Men, not all, but many of them were. So, you know, I welcome secularism in Iran, and I fear secularism in America.
Right. I mean, there's something really there. Between those two things, we probably have the right society, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because I see this constantly, and I'm sure you see it too, this constant attacking of straight white men, of Christians, all of these things. And what you're saying basically is we were born out of Christianity, America, and we've become absurdly tolerant. And yet,
right.
not absurdly tolerant, I think it's wonderfully tolerant.
Yes. Uniquely.
Uniquely, right.
Right.
And yet, there's just this idea out there that we are the most intolerant place. How do you fight those ideas back?
How you fight the irrational is very hard. It's very hard because you can give evidence. I give evidence for America being the least racist society that had multiracial elements in it in history, and it doesn't convince people if people have a vested interest in believing something, you can't talk them out of it. And this is why I fear the left. They have their world would collapse. It is like the famous book written when Stalin made his pact with Hitler. All these communists in the left who had followed Stalin, not all, many of them, thought, oh my God, I've been believing in nonsense my whole life. The God That Failed. It's a very famous book from, I think, the 50s or maybe the 40s. And it was about that. The left, why do people believe in communism? I mean, it is drivel. The thing is drivel. But when people drop Judeo-Christian religions, Catholicism, Protestantism, evangelicalism, Mormonism, Judaism, when people drop those, they don't stop yearning for religious certitude. So what they end up with is secular religious certitudes, and they are at least as scary.
So I don't think you would quite word it this way, but I guess I would word it as they're letting go of the sort of easier answers that religion might provide, and then it's a little easier to sway them in the secular arena. Would you say that's fair to say? Although I don't think you would word it quite that way.
No, that's fine. And it's also easier for another reason. Secularism makes no moral demands on you, tells you there is no God who judges you. So it's awesome. You feel great about yourself by taking the right position on any left-wing issue. I love blacks, I love gays, I love Muslims, I love whoever the victim of the month is, and I'm a wonderful human being. My daughter is a great girl. Really? Does she cheat on tests? I don't know, but she does, in fact. She does 10K run for breast cancer. That doesn't make your daughter a good girl. That's a very sweet thing that she does. But you are judged by your character.
Right.
And there's no more character emphasis.